The first thing I noticed was the smell. It was faint, almost unnoticeable, but it was there. A scent that didn't belong. A subtle fragrance that lingered in the air of the apartment when she wasn't home. I never thought much about it at first. It was the kind of thing you brush off, like a misplaced sock or a dent in the wall. But then, it started happening more often. Each time she went away for work or was out with friends, the smell would linger a little longer. I didn't recognize it at first. It wasn't perfume, not really. It was something else. Something sweet but strange, like a combination of vanilla and something sharper, like cinnamon. It didn't smell like her usual fragrance. And over time, I found myself wondering, where had it come from? But I'm getting ahead of myself. This wasn't how it started. It all began a few months ago, when I noticed that things weren't adding up. Not in a big, explosive way, but in small, quiet moments that I let slip by. Little changes in her routine. A couple of forgotten dates, a missed call. Nothing that seemed like it could be anything serious, yet enough to put me on edge. She had always been busy, always. A high-powered marketing director, constantly traveling for work, juggling multiple projects. So when she came home late or had to cancel plans, I didn't think much of it. People get busy. Life happens, right? But the late nights became more frequent. And the more I tried to check in, the more she became distant. It wasn't that she was mean or cruel, no. She was just absent. Conversations became surface level, quick exchanges about how the day had gone, nothing deeper. And the moments we used to share, like sitting down for dinner or watching our favorite shows together, started to feel like tasks. Obligations rather than genuine connection. I tried not to notice. I told myself I was just imagining it. After all, she was stressed. Work had been intense lately, and I could understand that. But then one night, something happened that I couldn't ignore. She was leaving for a business trip. Another one. Her third this month. A quick 3-day conference out of state, or so she told me. I didn't question it. I knew her job required a lot of travel. What else was I supposed to think? But this time, something felt different. She was packing in a rush, moving around the apartment quickly, trying to get everything done before she had to leave. And for the first time, I noticed something odd. She was wearing a new coat, a deep, rich red one that I had never seen before. I knew she had a thing for stylish jackets, but this one had no place in her wardrobe. She hadn't mentioned buying it, and I had never seen her wear anything like it. I didn't say anything. I mean, what could I say? Hey, where did you get that jacket? Seemed pointless. But the feeling that something wasn't quite right grew stronger. The next morning, she left early, kissing me on the cheek, telling me to have a great weekend. I had the whole apartment to myself, and for the first time in a while, I felt strangely alone. It wasn't that I didn't love her. It was just that feeling of something being off that kept gnawing at me. Something I couldn't explain. I wasn't planning on doing anything. Honestly, I wasn't. But later that afternoon, I found myself standing in front of her closet, staring at that red jacket. I couldn't help it. Something was drawing me in. My hand reached out, and before I could stop myself, I pulled it off the hanger and held it in my hands. And that's when I found it. At first, I thought it was a receipt. A small slip of paper tucked inside the pocket. But then I saw the name on it. It was a hotel. A high-end one, with a luxury spa and a rooftop bar. The receipt had her name on it. The check-in time? The same weekend she was supposed to be at a conference. I stared at it, feeling like the room was spinning. What was she doing at a hotel? With who? I tried to calm myself down. Maybe it was just an accidental booking mistake? Maybe she'd planned it months ago? I didn't know. But something inside me told me this wasn't a coincidence. But this wasn't enough. I needed more. I didn't want to jump to conclusions based on a receipt. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't ignore the pattern. The small things that didn't add up. The way she was suddenly more distracted, more secretive. This wasn't the woman I had married. I couldn't just sit there and wait. I needed answers. So I decided to follow her. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. I wasn't the type to do something like that. But the fear, the anxiety, it was overwhelming. I had to know what was going on. I had to see with my own eyes. I found out her flight was leaving early in the morning, so I decided to tail her. I told myself it was just to ease my mind. Just to see her off, maybe get a glimpse of the people she'd be working with. I was trying to justify it, trying to convince myself I wasn't being paranoid. But as I watched her leave for the airport, I felt that same unsettling feeling crawling up my spine. I had no idea what was about to unfold. And then, that night, I followed her flight. I tracked her progress online, making sure everything seemed to be going as planned. She checked in. She boarded. Everything looked normal. But when the plane landed, that's when things took a sharp turn. The flight landed, and I waited for her to text me. She always did when she landed safely, even if it was just a quick message. But this time, I didn't hear from her. It was strange. She'd never missed sending a text after arriving, even if she was busy. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. The knot in my stomach tightened. I told myself it was nothing. She's probably in a meeting or dealing with something, I thought. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept wandering back to that hotel receipt. Why hadn't she told me about it? Why hadn't she mentioned this trip in her usual way? I'd never known her to be secretive about work or conferences before. Around midnight, I decided to check her social media. She wasn't active much lately, but I figured I might get a clue about what was going on. I scrolled through her posts, looking for anything unusual. There was a picture from a dinner she'd posted the day before, but that was it. No mention of the hotel or the conference, just a generic "on my way to a work trip" post, which was typical. I sighed and closed my phone, feeling frustrated. But then, as I set it down on the table, I noticed a new notification. It wasn't from her. It was a message from a number I didn't recognize. The text read, "She's not where you think she is." I froze. My first instinct was to delete it. Maybe it was a prank or someone messing with me. But something told me to read it again. It wasn't a generic spam message. It was targeted. I sat there for a while, staring at the screen, trying to figure out if this was some sick joke. Who would send me something like that? I decided to reply, just to see if I could get any more information. "What do you mean? Where is she?" There was no response for a while. I almost convinced myself I was just overreacting when the phone buzzed again. The message came through, and my heart skipped a beat. "Look at the hotel she's staying at. The name should tell you everything you need to know." I stared at the message, feeling my blood run cold. It was the same hotel on the receipt I'd found in her coat. But how did this person know about it? How did they know the exact place? I had to know what was going on. Without thinking, I grabbed my jacket, grabbed my car keys, and left the apartment. My mind was racing, but there was one thing I was sure of: I needed answers. I drove through the city, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The hotel was only about 20 minutes away, but the whole drive felt like an eternity. My thoughts were swirling. Should I confront her? Should I call her? But what if she was really just on a business trip? What if I was imagining things? When I finally pulled into the hotel parking lot, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I parked a few spaces away from the entrance and waited. The lobby was brightly lit, with people checking in and out, but I couldn't see her anywhere. I felt like I was in a movie, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the big reveal. But I wasn't in a movie. This was real. This was my life. I stayed in the car for a while, watching the front door, hoping for some kind of sign. Then I saw it. A man. Not just any man. He was tall, dark-haired, dressed in a sharp suit. And when he walked into the hotel, he didn't look like a businessman checking in for a conference. He looked familiar. At first, I couldn't place him. But then it hit me. This was a guy she had mentioned a few months ago in passing, a colleague from an old project. She had told me he was married, and she'd only worked with him on a few projects. But why was he here, at the same hotel? The pieces were starting to come together, but I needed more. I needed to see if she was with him. I sat there, staring at the hotel entrance, feeling like a detective in one of those crime dramas. I checked my phone again, hoping for some update from that mysterious text message sender, but there was nothing. I was on my own now. After what felt like an eternity, I saw her. Janine. She stepped out of the hotel doors, laughing, with that same man by her side. They were talking, too casually, too comfortably. And then, she did something I never thought I'd see. She reached up and touched his arm, just the way she used to touch mine. My stomach dropped. Every doubt I'd ever had about her suddenly became a sharp, undeniable truth. She was here with him. She wasn't at a work conference. She was with him. I couldn't move. I just sat there, watching her laugh with him, as if everything was normal. The way she looked at him, the way they spoke. There was something so familiar, so intimate about it. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, and I couldn't stop the thoughts from flooding in. Was she really having an affair? Was all the distance between us because of this man? I watched them for what felt like hours, but in reality, It was probably only 20 minutes. They eventually walked inside the hotel, and I didn't know what to do. Should I follow them? Confront her now? Or wait until I had more proof? My hands were trembling as I sat in the car. Every scenario ran through my head. The one where I burst in and demand answers. The one where I sit quietly and just observe. But the longer I stayed in the car, the more I realized that I didn't have the strength to face her right now. Not without knowing the truth. I needed to be sure. After some time, I decided to drive back home. I couldn't just sit in the parking lot anymore. But even as I drove, my mind wouldn't shut off. What was going on between them? Was this just some fleeting fling? Or had it been going on for much longer than I thought? I had so many questions, but no answers. When I got home, I tried calling her again. This time, I could hear the faintest ring and then her voicemail. I left a message, trying to sound calm, trying not to let my panic show. Hey, just checking in. Hope everything's going well. Call me when you get a chance. The words felt empty as they left my mouth. I wasn't checking in. I wasn't hoping everything was well. I was desperate for her to pick up, desperate to hear her voice. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone, willing it to ring. But nothing came through. The silence was unbearable. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of what I had seen, of what was happening. Was it possible I had misinterpreted everything? Could they just be friends? But no. Deep down, I knew the truth. There was no way I was wrong. I needed to act. But what should I do next? Should I confront her immediately, or should I find out more before I made any decisions? I didn't have long to think about it. The next text came in, and this time, it was simple. She's still there. And so is he. The message hit me like a punch in the gut. How did they know so much? I stared at the screen, my hands clammy. There was no denying it now. The message burned in my hands, and for a moment, I couldn't even move. She's still there. And so is he. Those words echoed in my mind, over and over again. How did they know? Was someone watching me? Watching her? I wanted to scream, to throw my phone across the room, but instead, I just sat there, staring at the words. My heart was racing, every nerve on edge. Was it possible that someone had been tracking her? Was this part of some sick game? The fear, the uncertainty, was overwhelming. But I couldn't stop myself from responding. I had to know more. I had to know the truth. I typed out a quick reply. Who are you? I stared at the screen, waiting for an answer, but nothing came. I waited for what felt like an eternity, my mind spinning with endless possibilities. What if this was some kind of trap? What if it was her, trying to manipulate me? Or worse, what if it was someone who wanted to hurt me, to destroy everything I had? Then, the phone buzzed again. Meet me. I'll tell you everything. The message was simple. No elaboration. No details. Just an invitation to meet. I didn't think twice. I grabbed my jacket and rushed out the door, not bothering to think about what I was doing. I needed answers. I had to confront whatever this was, even if it meant walking straight into the unknown. I didn't know where to go, but the message had a location. A small cafe, one I had never been to. I drove there without thinking, my mind clouded with a mix of fear and anger. Was this person really going to tell me everything? Or was this just another step in some twisted game? When I arrived, I sat at a table in the corner, trying to keep my cool. The cafe was small, cozy, almost too quiet. I checked my watch. It was 10 p.m. Who would be here at this hour, and why now? I didn't have to wait long. A man walked in, casually dressed in a hoodie and jeans, but there was something about his presence that sent a chill down my spine. He walked straight toward me, sat down across from me, and without a word, slid his phone across the table. The screen showed a picture. A picture of Janine. But this wasn't just any photo. It was a photo of her, laughing, her hand resting on that man's shoulder, the same one I had seen earlier at the hotel. I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't just a fling. This wasn't a mistake. It was something else entirely. Do you see it now? He asked, his voice low. This wasn't a one-time thing. This has been going on for months. And you're just the last to know. The words stung. They didn't hit me all at once, but like a slow drip of water, they seeped into my brain, until I couldn't ignore them any longer. My mind raced. What did he mean by that? How did he know so much? Who was he? Who are you? I managed to ask, trying to control my voice. Why are you telling me this? He leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing as if he were studying me. You think I'm doing this for fun? You think I just woke up one day and decided to mess with you? I didn't know how to respond. What was happening? Was I being set up? He went on, his tone sharp. I'm not the one you need to be worried about. It's her. She's been playing you for months. She's been playing everyone. You're just the last one to figure it out. Every word he spoke felt like a punch. He wasn't speaking in riddles. He was speaking with certainty. And the more he talked, the more my world crumbled around me. I don't believe you, I said, but the doubt in my voice was obvious. It was hard to believe him, but at the same time, it was hard to ignore the evidence. He smiled, almost pityingly. You will. It'll hit you soon enough. And when it does, you'll know exactly what I mean. I looked at the photo again. There was no denying it. The man in the picture with Janine, the one from the hotel, the one she'd been laughing with. He wasn't just a colleague. The chemistry between them was undeniable. It wasn't just friendly. It wasn't just work. It was something else entirely. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to scream, to argue, to deny everything he was saying. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The secrecy, the lies, the strange behavior. This wasn't just about work trips and late nights. It was about something much darker. The man stood up, grabbing his phone from the table. Think about it, he said, his voice calm now. You have a choice. You can keep pretending everything's fine, or you can wake up. But I promise you, you won't like what you find. With that, he turned and left the cafe. I sat there, frozen, the weight of his words pressing down on me. What had just happened? What was I supposed to do now? I sat there, staring at the empty seat where the man had just been. His words echoed in my mind, bouncing off the walls of my skull. You have a choice. Was he trying to warn me, or was he just toying with me? What was his endgame? I looked at the photo again. Janine, smiling, carefree. And the man with her, the one from the hotel, standing too close, looking too comfortable. My hand trembled as I set the photo down, my mind spinning. I wanted to get up, leave the cafe, and never look back. But I couldn't. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what was happening. How long had this been going on? Had she been seeing him for months? Or was this just a one-off, a mistake? The questions kept piling up, and I couldn't silence them. I had to confront her. I had to find out if this was real, or if I was just being played. I left the cafe and drove home in a daze. The city lights blurred past me, but I didn't see any of it. I only saw the image of Janine with him. I couldn't get it out of my head. When I got back to the apartment, I stood in front of the door, hesitating. What was I going to say to her? How could I confront her without sounding crazy? What if I was wrong? What if she had an innocent explanation for all of this? I took a deep breath and walked in. The silence in the apartment was deafening. I could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on me, but I didn't know how to face it. She wasn't home yet. It was late, too late for a business trip. She should have been back hours ago. I checked my phone again. No messages. No calls. Nothing. I felt my chest tighten. I had to talk to her. I couldn't wait anymore. I sat down on the couch, waiting, my mind racing. I thought about what the man had said, and a part of me wanted to believe it was all a lie, that it was some cruel joke. But deep down, I knew the truth wasn't so simple. The door opened. Janine walked in, looking tired, but still beautiful as ever. She dropped her bag by the door and smiled at me. Hey, she said, her voice soft. How's your night? I stared at her, my heart pounding. The woman I had married, the one I thought I knew, was standing in front of me, and everything felt wrong. The room seemed to shrink. I need to ask you something, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She paused, sensing the shift in my tone. What's wrong? I didn't answer right away. I didn't know where to begin. But then, my anger took over. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Where were you tonight? Her eyebrows furrowed. I told you. I was at the conference dinner. You knew that. No, I said, my voice shaking with frustration. You weren't. You were with him, weren't you? Her face went pale. I could see the panic in her eyes, but she tried to play it cool. What are you talking about? I slid the photo across the table, the one I had gotten from the man at the cafe. She looked at it for a second, and then quickly turned away. I don't know where you got that, but you're making a mistake, she stammered, her voice shaky. I stood up, my hands clenched at my sides. A mistake? Don't lie to me. I know what's going on. You've been lying to me for months. You've been seeing him behind my back. She didn't say anything at first. The silence between us was thick, heavy, almost suffocating. She took a deep breath, trying to gather herself. It's not what you think, she finally whispered. Then explain it to me, I said, my voice breaking. Explain why I found that picture. Explain why you're acting like this. She didn't look at me. Instead, she stared down at her hands, as if trying to find the right words. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she murmured. My heart dropped. I wanted to scream. How could you do this to me? I thought. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I asked how long. She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched on, and I felt like I was drowning in it. When she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper, it shattered everything. It's been going on for months, she confessed. I never meant for it to happen. It just did. The words hit me like a slap. Months. I felt the air leave my lungs. Months? I couldn't process it. It didn't make sense. How could she lie to me for that long? I took a step back, my mind racing. I couldn't even look at her. I wanted to scream, to demand every detail, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. The silence between us was suffocating. She shifted uncomfortably, still avoiding my gaze. It was never supposed to go this far, she said, her voice barely audible. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me? I snapped, my voice trembling with anger. But you did. You've been lying to me for months. How could you keep this from me? She finally looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt. It wasn't like that. I never meant for it to happen. At first, it was just innocent, just talking, you know? But then it changed. And I couldn't stop it. I couldn't understand it. How could she let it get this far? I had trusted her completely. And now, everything felt like a lie. Who is he? I asked, my voice shaking. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, looking down at her hands. His name is Adam. He's someone I met through work. It started innocently, but then it got complicated. I didn't know what to say. Adam. It wasn't even the first time I'd heard that name. She'd mentioned him before, but I thought it was just another colleague. Another work friend. I never thought it would come to this. Complicated. I echoed, disbelief creeping into my voice. You've been seeing him behind my back for months, and you think it's just complicated? She looked at me, her eyes welling up with tears. I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this. It just happened. I didn't know how to stop it. Her words were like poison. They didn't make sense. They didn't fix what she had done. She had betrayed me. I had trusted her with everything, and she threw it all away. I felt the weight of her confession crash down on me. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, was someone else entirely. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why did you do this to me? She wiped away a tear and took a step closer. I didn't want to hurt you, but somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I didn't know how to tell you. I was too scared. Scared, I repeated, shaking my head. You should have been scared of losing me. She swallowed hard, her eyes pleading. I know, and I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I held up my hand, cutting her off. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to process any of this. Everything feels like a lie. The room felt smaller, suffocating. My chest was tight, and I could barely breathe. The weight of what she had confessed hung heavy in the air. I didn't know what came next. What was I supposed to do? Where did we go from here? I stood there, frozen, not knowing what to say next. She was crying now, her hands trembling, trying to reach out to me. But I couldn't bring myself to move. It was like I was trapped in a nightmare, and no matter how much I wanted to wake up, the reality of her betrayal was too real. I never meant for you to find out like this, she whispered again, her voice breaking. But her words felt hollow, like they were just excuses. How could she not know how this would hurt me? How could she not understand the weight of what she had done? I don't even know who you are anymore, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. She flinched, but I didn't take them back. The pain was too raw, too sharp. Everything had been shattered in that one moment. The trust, the love, gone. Please, she begged, her voice cracking. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. I couldn't control it. I wanted to yell at her, to make her understand the devastation she had caused. But instead, I just stood there, numb, trying to wrap my mind around what she had just admitted. How long, Janine? I asked, my voice quieter now. How long has this been going on? She wiped her eyes, taking a deep breath. A few months, she said. Maybe, for months? It wasn't supposed to be anything serious. I swear, at first, it was just talking, just friendly. But then, it crossed a line. A few months. For months. The betrayal wasn't just a slip-up. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was planned, It was deliberate, and it had been going on for months while I thought everything was fine. I felt like I was suffocating. Every word she spoke felt like a weight pushing me further down into the ground. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think clearly. My mind was a jumbled mess of confusion and anger. "You could have told me," I said, my voice barely audible. "You could have come to me. We could have talked about it. But you chose to lie to me instead. You chose him." Her eyes filled with more tears, and she stepped forward, trying to take my hand. "I was scared," she said. "Scared of losing you. I didn't know how to tell you, and by the time I realized what I was doing, it was too late." The irony of her words didn't escape me. She had been scared of losing me, but now she had lost me. Everything she had feared had come true. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this," I said quietly. The truth stung more than I had expected. She nodded, as if she had already anticipated it. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But please, just don't hate me. I never wanted this to hurt you." The silence between us stretched on. She kept looking at me, her eyes full of regret, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything else. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know how to move forward, or if I even wanted to. Everything felt shattered, beyond repair. But one thing was clear: whatever this was, it was over. The silence hung in the air like a thick fog, each second stretching into eternity. I could still feel the weight of her betrayal, the sting of her lies. But there was something else too, a flicker of something deeper, a faint glimmer of clarity. For the first time in what felt like forever, I took a deep breath, and I didn't feel the crushing weight of anger or betrayal. I felt tired. Tired of carrying around this emotional baggage. Tired of being stuck in the same toxic cycle of pain and blame. I didn't want to live in this moment anymore. Janine was still standing there, her eyes pleading, waiting for me to say something. I saw the regret in her eyes, the genuine sorrow that wasn't just about being caught. It was about the love she had lost. And as much as I hated to admit it, I realized something. She wasn't the only one who had lost something here. I had too. But I didn't want to keep losing. "Janine," I said, my voice steadier now. This isn't easy. And I don't know if I can forgive you right now, but I need space. I need time to figure out what I want. I need time to heal." She nodded, tears still streaking down her face. "I understand. I never expected you to forgive me right away. Just know I'm sorry. I really am." There was nothing else left to say in that moment. The damage had been done, but I wasn't going to let it define me, or us, forever. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep holding on to this anger, this hurt. If I did, it would swallow me whole. "I'll figure this out," I said, looking her in the eyes for the first time since the confrontation. "I just need some time." She gave me a small, sad smile. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." As she left the apartment, the door closed softly behind her, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I didn't have the answers yet. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I wasn't going to let this define me anymore. Time would heal the wounds. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. I wasn't giving up on love, not on myself, at least. A few weeks later, I found myself sitting in a coffee shop, sipping my drink and reflecting on everything that had happened. The pain had dulled, the sting of betrayal fading with each passing day. And then, unexpectedly, I saw her. Janine. She was standing by the counter, looking as nervous as I felt. She spotted me across the room and took a hesitant step toward me. I didn't know what to expect, but I stood up and met her halfway. She looked different, calmer, more grounded. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. There was an awkward silence, but it wasn't as uncomfortable as it had been before. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady, "about everything. And I understand if you don't want to talk to me, but I just wanted you to know that I've been working on myself. I know I messed up, but I'm trying to be better." I nodded, the old anger no longer there, replaced by something more measured. "I've been thinking too," I said, "and I'm not ready to forgive you yet. But I'm starting to understand that I can't keep holding on to the past. I have to let go of the pain, or I'll never move forward." She smiled, a small but genuine smile. "I hope one day you can forgive me," she said softly. "Maybe I will," I said. "But for now, I'm just glad we're talking." It wasn't perfect. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a start. As we parted ways that afternoon, I knew that I still had a long road ahead of me. But I also knew that this was the first step toward healing. not just for her, but for me too. Life didn't always go the way you planned. But sometimes, the hardest lessons could lead to something better. And with that thought, I walked away, ready to begin again. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful.